All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. All right, welcome everybody to the City of Crescent Springs council meeting for Monday, May 24th. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call.
Mike Gardy.
Here.
Deborah No. Here. Christy Arlinghouse. Here. Patrick Hackett.
Here.
Chad Longbons.
Here.
Carol McGowan. Here.
All right, next agenda item is the approval of minutes for the May 10th, 2021 special meeting. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second it.
Mike Darty.
Yes.
Deborah No.
Yes.
Christy Arlinghouse.
Abstain.
Patrick Hackett.
Yes.
Chad Longbons.
Yes.
Carol McGowan.
Yes.
All right, motion carries 5-0.
Didn't read it.
All right, next item, citizens and guests. Do we have anybody that would like to speak before council?
Well, I'd like to speak, but I'll wait until further into the meeting, if that's all right.
Okay,
How long can you wait to speak? Don't you have to speak now or not?
well, I would prefer that we get that business out of the way now if we could.
Okay.
So, Mr. Flaherty, would you like to speak?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. And, can you hear me all right, everybody?
Yes.
My intent was to come to the meeting tonight to watch the new mayor and the new council person. And I had some questions, but I saw the agenda, so I have some additional questions. So my first question I'd like to address to our new council person, Carol McGowan. I tried to look at the city website and the Facebook where the meetings are recorded, but I did not see any recording of the special meeting on May the 10th. So I understand that the minutes of that meeting will be approved tonight since they don't record special meetings. So what I wanted to do, first of all, let me compliment you and tell you I appreciate you stepping up to the plate and applying for the council position and being elected and doing your civic duty.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you. But I do have a question since I wasn't able to see the recording. I'd like, if you wouldn't mind, to tell me about yourself and some of your qualifications.
Well, first of all, I was the only person that stepped up to the plate.
That's unfortunate.
It's very unfortunate. We wouldn't need any qualifications unless they extended the time and had more people step up to the plate. I've lived in the city for 4 years. I started coming to city meetings almost immediately to see how it worked, what was done, what was not done, things that I could see that needed improvements. A major concern of mine that our former mayor, Mayor Lou Hartville, knew just from me being in the audience. I'm very concerned about the amount of apartments in this city, very concerned. I feel that not always, but there are people that have lived in apartments and they don't have a vested interest in the city. I feel qualified to speak regarding Section 8, subsidized housing. As a kid, I lived in one for 4 years. I look at that as a hand up, not as a handout. I'm also very interested in the safety of our police officers. our firemen, and especially having a daughter in the military, I'm very interested in when someone says it's for the veterans or it's for the police, I truly want it to be that. I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. I've worked with kids for 8 years. I did in-school suspension. So I know what it's like for kids to be very young and unfortunately be born into a family that criminally is awful. And I like this city. I was impressed with this city because it's small. And I'd like to do everything that I can to keep it at a high quality.
Okay, well, thank you. I would like to ask you a question. I know you've only been in the position a couple of weeks, so if you don't know the answer, that's fine. But my question is regarding the budget, and don't know if you had a chance to review it. Hopefully you have, because you're going to vote on it tonight, the first reading. But my question is, as a new person, what do you think about the increase in contract services of over $88,000? So 7.2% increase.
I think it depends on where those contract services are going. If the contract services are for the betterment of the city, whether it be contract services for repaving roads, contract services for cutting grass, taking care of the stuff, the properties that the city owns and no individual is responsible for. The contract services save us money without affecting employees negatively. I agree with contract services.
Okay,
So, Mr. Flaherty, if we could limit it to one more question, just for the sake of our agenda.
well, I didn't know there was any limit. I have 3 more questions.
If we could do one more question, that way we can allow anybody else to speak, so we can stay on our agenda, please.
Well, I object to that. First of all, I'd like to go on record that you're limiting my free speech, okay?
Sir, we are not doing that. We're trying to run a meeting, so if you could take a seat, that would be great.
Well, where does it say?
Mr.
that
Flaherty,
I'm
could you
limited?
please take a seat? We need to
Well,
move
You
on.
told me I have one more question.
Then
Okay.
please ask
All
it.
right, I will. Okay, my final question is to you, Mayor, is I see where you are going to change the name of Rips Road to Veterans Way. So I'd like to ask you, or the city administrator, why was the road originally named Rips Road?
I can't speak to that, Mr. Flaherty. I think that was before my time living in the city, so I can't speak to that.
I can.
Christie, if you'd like to answer, that'd be fine.
Let's see. Claire Marconi was our mayor, and it was before I got on council. I've been on council for 14 years. And it was right after pretty much the finishing touches were put on the park. We always had a beautiful Veterans Memorial up there. George Ripper, even before Claire took office, learned how to drive a bulldozer. He never knew how to do it. He rented a bulldozer, and he and other public works people. And the mayor at the time was George Stewart. Somebody in the audience might remember him. George Stewart and George, the public works people, and some council people literally built that park. They took hammer and nails and built the shelter, and they had a grand opening. Then winter came, and George went after it come spring, and he worked a lot of time getting that park in shape, getting trees up, doing a walking path and so forth. So fast forward a year or so, this city council and the mayor decided to dedicate that road in recognition for George's service. George is George Ripper, and his nickname is Rip, so it's called Rip's Way. And for those of you that don't know where it is, it's adjacent to the Veterans Memorial. But it was a former council and mayor gave it his recognition for his service and his help in developing the park and what it is today.
Yeah, I know George. I've been in the city for 22 years, and George's probably been here for 4 years. And I think it's important that we recognize people that have dedicated their life. Granted, he was a paid employee, but I think it's important that we recognize people that dedicated their life, basically, to hard work and making this city better. And again, I object to not being able to talk.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 5 on the agenda.
Excuse me, I'll talk.
Yes.
Man, I tell you, this is a different view. Kind of liking this from a year ago. In fact, I see Chad moved over into my seat. Daggone it. How's everybody doing today? Pretty good? Good. Well, the reason I'm up here also is I want everybody on council to really think about what we're doing here as far as George Ripperger goes. Now, I don't know everything that went down. I don't pretend to know. And quite frankly, now that I'm not on council, I don't think I deserve to know. But I want you guys to understand something. That man's been here for over 40 years, and he knows every nook and cranny, everything that goes on with this city. He is a valuable resource to be able to contact and to use. You know, so I think that you really should think about, instead of alienating him, try to keep him so that when you need information, you can go to him. When the city needs information, your dad or your grandpa always went to him. The guy knows everybody. He knows everything. And I'm a little bit concerned because it's going to end up costing the city in the long run. And I just think it's you need to rethink what you're doing there. I know you guys got to make your own decisions, but I made a special effort to get up here. In fact, even early. Which is really rare when I was on council. For whatever went on, George is a good resource for this city, and I think that you guys should keep that in mind. It's just good business, and that's what we are as a city. Unfortunately, it's just big business. That's all it is. So that's all I have to say.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right, the next item on our agenda is we'd like to welcome Representative Kim Banta to our meeting this evening. She is going to provide us a legislative update. So we're going to limit any questions to Representative Banta. This is just more of a high-level update from her on what's going on in Frankfort. So welcome, Representative Banta.
Thank you, and I'm just going to stand here so my back is not to the group. Is that okay?
Perfect.
First of all, thank you very much, and I saw your agenda, and whoo, I'm going to be quick, okay? But I have my email and my phone number. I did mailers. Everybody has my personal cell and my personal email, so you don't have to go through the LRC in Frankfort. People go, how did you do that? How did you get out in flyers to, 8,000 people? How did you do that with your private number and your email? I said, people want to call me when they have an important question. They didn't call and ask me what the weather was. They called when they had a question. If I didn't know it, I found out. So it's worked out really well. So I feel like I try to be really accessible. So if anybody has any questions, they can always get a hold of me, okay? The most important bill to me this year is one that I got through. It took me 2 years, but it was HR 44, and it was for our firefighters. Our firefighters did not have the same access to the mental health care that policemen did. And they had to pay for it, and then it was just by chance. I was talking to Brian Neal, who represents the firefighters, And he said that for extreme PTSD, firefighters had to go to Maryland to be treated. So now you're away from your family, you're away from people you love, in probably one of the most stressful times of your life. You've witnessed something horrific and you can't be with your family. So I passed the bill that firefighters can be paid to be trained in crisis intervention therapy. They can then help other firefighters in crisis intervention therapy, and they can be paid for doing that service once they complete the hours in the certification. So I thought it was kind of a win-win. They get firefighters, they get local, and they get paid. They should be paid. I think anybody should be paid when you provide a service. So that was very important to me. Education had a big win this year, both private and public, with school choice. So school choice is now, they're going to start the big information gathering. They're going to go out to satellite out and give everybody information on how to apply for grants, how to apply for tuition. So the school choice is very excited about that. But public school also won because they got full-time kindergarten, nickel equalization, some facilities overhauls. So public education also got a big win. Justice reform. Representative Mosher is my roommate, and she proposed a bill where when people leave jail, rather than just leaving with nothing, because then it's hard to get a job, it's hard to find gainful employment, medical treatment, whatever, they're going to have a file with them that has an ID, certificate to work, social security number. They're going to have that so they can leave incarceration and become productive citizens, which is the goal. I think is everybody wants you to leave jail, not have recidivism, and go out to the public and earn a living. So I'm just going to keep it there. Congratulations, Mayor.
Perfect.
Thank you for asking me here, and I'll just leave a couple cards in case somebody has a question. Okay?
Perfect. Thank you, Representative Banta.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. All right, the next item on the agenda is the mayor's report. The only thing that I would share this evening in terms of my report is we did announce officially today, but it was effective on Friday, that we have appointed an interim director of public works for the city. We're very excited. Tanya Miller has accepted that position. She's been with the city for the past 2 years or so. But has extensive experience, had worked for Villa Hills, and had some prior experience in the field as well. So we're very happy to have Tanya serving in that role on an interim basis. And that's all I have for the mayor's report this evening. Next item is the fire authority report. Chief Wynn.
Good evening, everybody. I'll be very brief. Fire runs for the month, 37, 196 year to date, 67 ambulance calls, 308 year to date. We're not quite out of the woods with COVID yet. We still have a few cases a month trickling through. Next meeting, I'll have a firehouse update for you. We did have a sort of informal meeting last week here, but the designers will be back tomorrow, and we'll have some drawings and things like that to show you. Last thing I have is thanks to Mike Darty, we received a grant from his company, Scripps Howard, to purchase a new ID printer for our firefighters, and hopefully when the new firehouse comes, that ID will be their access into each individual dorm in the firehouse. So that's all I have, unless there's any questions.
With the COVID, are you still seeing a lot of cases come in from when you respond to the public realms and stuff?
Yes. So unfortunately, it's still the case that we don't know they have COVID. We've all been vaccinated, but when we get to the hospital and they get tested at the hospital, then the hospital notifies us that they have COVID. So no one at the firehouse has gotten sick since, I want to say September. So we're very fortunate there, but there's always that stray that could get sick.
One other quick question. How, the ambulance I noticed in your authority meeting was delayed. How long is the delay?
We still don't know. We're a victim to the microchip syndrome.
Yep.
So it's a F450. All the 2021s were gone when we placed the order. So now we have to wait on a 2022. And as soon as the microchip comes in, then they'll build the chassis.
It's a nightmare in my world too, so.
I bet.
That's why I roll my eyes.
It's a pretty parking lot down there in Sparta though.
Oh, it is.
Right at, South.
Oh, yeah, $100 parking.
Very.
Well, thank you, Chief Wynn.
Thank you.
And the next item is the police report. Chief Allen.
Thank you, Mayor.
Chief, you want to use the, to move your slides or not?
Yeah, one more, please. There we go. Okay, summary by incident, we had 1,106 calls for service this month. Agency activity, total crimes 13, collisions 18, citations 53, courtesies 45, call response 9, JC3, which is domestic sport. Of the crimes, 2 of them were larceny arrests for misdemeanors, but we did have several drug arrests. That was a self-initiated, so that's not on this report, just to let you know that. Case status, 94.4% of the cases are closed. We have 12 open, 4%, 3 are still inactive. And that's just a breakdown of what we've had. You notice drug, narcotic violations are the top, followed by disorderly conduct, or sorry, driving under the influence, I apologize for that. This is our investigative monthly. This is a new report that I'm giving you. So what we have is our cases that we are still working on. It's on the right, or the left side. On the right side are the cases in court. So we have one sodomy, it has a jury trial scheduled. Robbery, the suspects pled guilty to robbery second, rape first. We're still investigating it. Competency hearings in the way. Domestic violence has a trial, and fleeing and evading has a grand jury hearing. Top roadway drugs, buttermilk pipe is a top roadway drug, and that's just our crime reports there, just a map of it. Top roadway collisions, buttermilk pike is 11, Anderson 3, International 2, those were top roadways. Of our 18 collisions, 2 were injured, 3 were injured out of the 2 injury accidents, and 1 was a commercial vehicle. And that's a breakdown. Again, if you look between Anderson and 75, that's your highest rate of accidents in that corridor. It's just, the road is just not, with all the traffic that's on it right now, it's part of the reason what's going on there. Speeding citations, 75 South 6 and Anderson Road and Amsterdam Road are the top of those. And those are our citations that we've issued. Courtesy violations, basically we stopped you for speeding, but we give you a warning, so those were the lucky folks. Canine information, that's just a summary of the canine training that's being done. He's done 8 narcotic searches this month and 1 felony stop. And that's just a breakdown of what he trains on. This is a breakdown of our cases we have, or still work we had. We had assault 4th, closed the case. Theft, harassment, death investigation, which is still open because of coroner's report. Possession of controlled substance, trafficking controlled substance in Crescent Springs, trafficking marijuana, possession of controlled substance, all Crescent Springs are closed. FOT was 3 hours, court 28 hours, overtime shift coverage 5, investigation 11, funeral detail was 12, range was 14, 73 and a half hours of overtime. Any questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Chief Allen.
Thanks, Chief.
Next item is the city administrator's report. Mike?
Thank you, Mayor, Harville, and council members. I only have one item. It's just a reminder regarding our Memorial Day prayer service this Sunday, May 30th. To honor and remember our military and first responders who have died in service to our community, nation, and world. It will take place from 2 to 2:45. Like I said, this Sunday, May 30th, at the Kenton County Veterans Memorial.
There you go. All right.
That's all I have.
Perfect, thanks, Mike. All right, next item is old business. The first item under old business is a website presentation by Joseph Nagrant, which I believe is joining us via Zoom.
Joseph?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much. I'll go ahead and share my screen here. I think we'll have to dominate the share the screen as best I can just do it. I think if you right click on the side of my meeting,
Okay, you should have it now.
all right, great, thank you so much. All right, thank you. I would just want to say thank you to the mayor and present today. I had a proposal that I given to Mike Daly, and thank you as well, to create a website that's for the residents. It allows them to be able to get information quickly and easily, but also as well, it can be utilized for increasing business revenue and other types of revenue. So I'd like to first go over a study that we did with 13 municipalities, all around 4,000 to 6,000 in population. I will do is show you the results of that study. We actually interviewed the city management, but more importantly, we actually interviewed the residents, and they told us how they want the homepage laid out now. So all of this study allows us to ensure that we build a successful websites for municipalities your size. So I'd like to run through that survey. I'd like to show you some of the designs that meet those new demands, and then go over the features that are included in the proposal that I've given you, and then very, very quickly show you how the non-technical staff of the city will be able to edit the website. But if any of you have any questions during this presentation, and I will make it as quick to the point as possible, by all means, please ask me, or at the very end, I'll open it up for questions. Revise has been building government websites for over 20 years now. We're known for two different things. One, for building what's called a self-government website, which makes it easy for residents, local businesses, even government officials to get information really quickly. And then the second thing we're known for is our editing system for the website. From day one, it was made for non-technical individuals, and a lot of our clients indicate as long as you know about 5% of Microsoft Word and you know how to read, that you can use our system even without our training. But of course, we always encourage them to take our training as well. We have over 2,300 clients nationwide, and lots of clients just in Kentucky alone. And even without any marketing during COVID, we still received all of these website design and technology awards. Here's the results of that study. First off is all of governments your size, they want more of a self-government website. They want to turn it more to a reference website so people get information really quickly. They want to allow the residents and local businesses that with minimal reading on the homepage and a quick glance, to be able to get to any application or any information in one click from the homepage. Secondly, in your area of the country, 68 to 71% of residents are coming to municipal websites strictly on their smartphone. So since that's the primary tool of getting information, they want all of the latest programming. So it looks great on any size screen, whether it's a desktop, a PC tablet, or any size mobile phone. A real big thing and big concern is making sure the website is ADA compliant. If you use any type of federal government money, it's mandated by the federal government that you have the programming in there for the vision impaired and disabled, so they can use their software to read information, be able to have color contrast specifications and make it easier to read, and at the same time too, they mouse over items, it reads to them. So it uses their software to help them navigate the website quickly and easily. So now the next thing the residents indicated is that there's a lot of information that they can get access to, everything from the document center to calendars. Maybe we have an online build, they have frequently asked questions. They want to get to these applications not by having a lot of quick links on the homepage. That's too clumsy and it looks very, it's just too much for them to read, I guess I could say. They like to have what's called a scrolling application slider, and you only see 5 icons with these applications on it at a time. If they don't mind sliding to the next group of 5 and the next group of 5, this makes it easier for them to get to these applications. That's what the residents prefer. So next item is that there's a lot of young families that like to share information with other families. What they like to do is go to a web page on their new website and pull that information out and put it in possibly their own Facebook or Twitter and share it with their friends and family members. So what they want is called a social media sharing app, but they can pull that information and send it out. And I'll give you a quick demonstration of how that works. The next item is that city management wants to have a highly visible website, so residents type in a question and just their search engine, it tries to pull them to the page of the answer versus the home page. This way they can get information quickly. But also too, it increases the web presence, so more and more people, it increases the awareness of the city and also the information and the events. It gets more and more people even outside your geographic boundaries. This next slide is strictly from the residents. This is how they want the home page laid out now. First off, they said they don't mind longer scrolling home pages. They kept reminding us that we're on our mobile phones, so as long as we can flip to the information and get it right there, we don't mind scrolling whatsoever. They indicated they didn't want any paragraphs on the home page. They need that home page to look very clean, and it's their daily dashboards. They can take a quick glance and get information quickly, rather than have it cluttered up with 3 or 4 paragraphs of a news item or a welcome letter or anything that's just comes worried. They want it more or less as a front page full of buttons and information that they can get to quickly. They want to be able to get to any web page from the home page, even if it's a couple levels buried down in just one click. For any upcoming items, whether it's events or news items, only list 3. We have behavioral software. We found that out that if we had more than 3, they did not even look at the list. But keeping it at 3 and using a good photo would increase the chance of them reading actually one of them by 43%. Sometimes we have urgent or emergencies happening in our municipality. And the practice for a government website provider used to be put a banner at the top, sometimes with a flashing red light, to draw the attention of the residents so they know that, hey, this is something we need to pay attention to. Well, the residents actually complained about that because of the fact that people, especially over the age of 50, are using the website for other purposes. They've already read that announcement and they know about it, but they felt very distracted trying to get other information when their eyes kept being pulled to the top. So what they requested was a pop-up window with the information that they could turn off when they're done reading it. Now, the next item has to do with both attraction for residents to read more information, but more importantly, ADA compliancy. You cannot use cartoon graphics or hand-sketched images on the website anymore because it doesn't meet the color contrast specifications. But also, too, if there's words in there, it's usually hard to read. So residents prefer it, but it's recommended to stay ADA compliant by using photos. A lot of our clients, if they don't have a photo, they can easily go to a royalty-free photo website like unsplash.com, search for a picture, let's say, on recycling. And they type it in the category, a bunch of pictures come up, they can select one that's done by a professional photographer. And the last item is the scrolling application slider for all the applications and information. Again, only seeing 5 at a time. Another thing that was brought to our attention is all the hacking that's been happening, especially with smaller municipalities under 10,000 in population. We did some studies to find out that there's been a 394% increase in government website hacking in these smaller populations. And the targets are websites using what's called free software or open source software like WordPress or Drupal. This is software that's free and it's built by everyday individuals, and the source code is open to the world. So it's easy to take a look at the coding and get in the back door and hack the website. Municipal management does not want to have to be explaining to residents why the website was hacked, much less defending their position that no information was compromised. So they say government is getting off of that system as quick as possible. Another reason for the target is because of the fact it's taught in cybersecurity schools how to actually hack these websites. So sometimes they'll try it on a small municipality because if the student gets caught, you probably don't have the money to prosecute them. So to keep it safe, you want to have a government class content management system that's proprietary, and we haven't had any intrusions in over 8 years, so we're extremely secure. As far as the hosting environment, we have 4 redundant server farms across the whole United States, so you don't have to worry about power outages. We put the website on the web server, but as an editor, when you log in, you actually move that over to the revised technology server. That way it keeps the website running at 100% while you're doing your editing. You can save it, which is that page over there, for the world to view. And if you were ever hacked, we do have a 24-hour monitoring team that selects republish. It publishes out the last instance of your website, and it's up and running in minutes. If you ever need help, you can call us anytime, Monday through Friday, and we also have other tools that you can get access to 24 hours a day, including if you were to call my office after hours, it goes right to my cell phone. Here's some websites we've launched over the last year in Kentucky. This is from Williamsburg, Kentucky. This is their navigation over at the top. Quick links to their social media, rotating photo gallery. Here's their application slider to get to their applications quickly and easily, and they can scroll through them very easily. Upcoming meetings and events and news items are just displayed very quickly and easily. Of course, they can select view all to get to the full calendar or the full newsletter. This is what we did for Hopkinsville, Kentucky. They wanted something a little bit older because of the fact that they want to attract more sort of like weekend tourism revenue into their area. So you have the rotating photo gallery. This is that navigation I told you about. When you hover over the tab, you see every single web page under there, and they click the one they want to near there. You don't have to be searching, you go to different levels. And residents do not feel that this looks cluttered. They actually told us they enjoyed it. Here's the quick link information to all the different applications. Here's that home page alert I told you about. They can click out of it if they don't want to see anything more, or select read more to open up an interior page with all the details. And then, of course, what they call the Hoptown Hotline. So these are the quick links to get to their different applications so people can get information quickly and easily. So most of our new designs are coming out like this, trying to show off the actual character of the community, quick links to get to information, easy to use navigation for any age, and just with a quick glance at the home page, they can get whatever they need quickly. The features that are in our proposal that we put for you are going to be, if you have a longer home page alert, then you have what's called floating navigation, so it follows you as you scroll down the page. So at any point in time, if you want to go to another page, you can just get to the navigation and get there by selecting and click. Home page alert, and after you're done reading it, you can close out of it. Frequently asked question module, you can have 200-300 questions here, because the residents aren't going to look for that question, they're going to type in the questions, what they're looking for, and the answers come to them. Document center with all of your permit information, bids, rules and regulations at the parks, could be in here. Agendas and minutes. You can have as many categories as you want, and if you want to browse through there, you can do that. But if not, you have that special search engine where you put in the document you're looking for, The ones that closely match your request comes up when you hit search. We have also some little widgets, as people will call them, to help with all types of people of all different ages and different impairments. First off, for the younger residents, this is a social media sharing app. Capture the content on this particular web page or any of yours. And in this case, I'm pulling it in my personal Facebook. So here's the content. I can say, hey, this looks like a great place for a family reunion. What do you think? And I post it to my Facebook. So it's one way these individuals share information throughout the city with their friends. Language translator, over 95 languages. You just select the language they want, and it changes to that language right then and there. Along with ADA compliancy, this next item is not required, but we will install it free of charge with your approval. It's an ADA accessibility widget. It brings the software for the vision impaired and disabled to them when they're away from their homes, so that when they come to your website, they can change the contrast to meet their visual needs, as well as highlight links, change the text, the cursor, all the different things that make it easier for them. Also comes with our web calendar. You can have as many calendars as you want. Each calendar can be color-coded, so you can look at just those events by just clicking on that calendar or looking at all of them to see what's happening. And it does have the keyword search, so if there's a specific event you're looking for, you can type in the information, and it'll bring up the event that closely matches that. You can look at the events by month, week, day, or maybe just a nice little list. Each event is like a mini web page. You can upload YouTube videos, pictures, documents, as well as all of the content needed for that event or meeting, and you're going to have an event coordinator too that they can ask questions to. The last item is the Citizens Request Center. So throughout our interviews with the residents, they kept telling us about how they had a burning question. And whether they made a phone call or sent an email, it usually went to the wrong person and they got frustrated over it. So they said what would be convenient for them is being able to go to a web form and select the topic that they have a question about. Behind each topic will be an email address of a city staff member that can answer that question. Then all they have to do is put in their information, put in the question that they want answered, hit submit, it goes right to that individual, so they can turn around and give them an answer in 24 hours. So these are the features that come standard with your new website that are really going to increase communication and be able to interact with the residents in a favorable and positive way. So last, we do have other applications, so down the road, if there's others that you need to add on, we can add them on as you need them. To edit the website, I'll be real brief on this. A city staff member that's allowed to edit the website will just go down to the bottom, select the word login, put in their username and password. And the only thing they have to remember is anything with a blue box, they can edit on their own. So if they want to make an edit to a web page, all they do is search to the page they want to edit and select edit page content. Now it opens it up for them. They do have an area for frequently asked questions and tutorial videos that can help them out on the spot if they need it. Activation and expiration dates, if they want a page to be up just for a couple of days and come back down. If they want to edit the page themselves, they might do some of the following items. Upload a picture, link to a agenda document or a meeting document, maybe link to another website or another web page within the city's website. So I'll show you how to do all three right now. To upload an image, I click on the image manager icon, I can drag and drop my image here, pull it off of my computer, or I can go ahead and reuse the image that I have on the website. I can just search for it by name and use it that way. I can crop the image if I need to, can make it look just right. So I crop. I can put the picture anywhere I want on the web page. For ADA compliance, we want to have a meaningful phrase or a description on there that'll work with the screen reader. So you type that in there. And we hit save. It puts it right into the web page. If I want to resize the image, I can click in the center and then just reduce the size or increase the size to what I need. If I want to upload a document, put the name of the document and highlight it. Then I go to the link manager icon, just select upload file. Now I can easily click here and pull the document right off my computer. If it is a Word document, I can automatically convert it to a PDF on the spot just by selecting that checkbox. And I can reuse documents that are already on the website. I just need to make sure I have a good tag on there for the screen readers. Select save and continue. Now I have that document loaded here. If I want to have a link to go to another web page or another website, I put the name of the organization or the topic and highlight it. Go to the link manager icon and then just put in the web page address that I want. When I select continue, there's a link checker to make sure it's a good link, make sure it's live. If not, there'll be an alert that comes up that lets me know. I'm done with my edits, I hit save, and it pushes it right on out to the web. The last thing I'm going to show you is how to add out, how a staff member can add out a new web page. You just select Edit Navigation, select Create New Page, name the page, and then select which layout that they want for the web page. From there, they just hit save, so it's moving the page and putting it into the navigation. And if ever you need to reorganize your navigation, it's just drag and drop to the area that you want. So you really don't need to know anything about programming. You can do everything like this as a non-technical individual. The last thing I'm going to do is go to our new page. One thing that's getting very popular is creating new news items with a webcam or other means, or maybe videotaping your own meetings and have them available for the public to view at their convenience. So you videotape the meeting, upload it to YouTube, it's free of charge. Then to have it play on your website, just copy the address of where the YouTube video is. Go to the page where you want it to play, select Edit Page Content, and then select the Video Capability tool. And all you have to do is paste in the web address of that video. And you hit save. Our technology does the magic so that web users can play the video right then and there. So that's a very quick overview, and I'd like to go ahead and open it up for anyone's questions.
I have a question. Do you have a representative from your company come and help us set this up with the content? Or do you just give us a shell and a training class, and then it's up to us to put in the content, the pictures, and the graphics, so forth? How does that work?
I apologize, I'm hearing every other word from you. Could you ask me the question one more time, but just maybe be a little bit closer to the microphone? I'm so sorry.
Or take your laptop over there.
Hold on one second, Joe.
Thank you, April.
Hi, I'm Christy Arlinghouse. I'm on City Council, and I just had a question. Is it that you just are going to provide us with a shell? Maybe I'm not picking something up here, and then it will be up to our employees to fill in the blank, so to speak? Or will you have, I'm sure you'll have someone from your company come in and do a training class, but as far as the content, the verbiage that goes in and the formatting and so forth, is that the responsibility of the city?
We normally do take the content, can you hear me clearly?
Yeah.
Okay, we normally do take the content from your old site and move it into the new site. The last time I did a demonstration with the staff, it seemed that everybody felt they wanted to build a new website from scratch, because a lot of the content that's on there is old, stale, inaccurate. Rather than moving it over and being caught by information that's wrong, they wanted to have a show website and build it. But if you don't, we can take the content from the old site and move it into the new site, and then they can maintain it from there. So we can do either or, whatever works the best.
Okay, and what is, for instance, do you have like a useful?
And those come with training. So we will train everybody on how to do everything on the website.
Okay.
The current website has a lot of bad information on it and the way it's laid out and everything.
Chet Longbaum's saying that the current website has a lot of bad information and
Correct.
obsolete information.
It needs to be
I had another
updated.
question, but I forgot what it was. Yes, do you have like a useful life of your website? Should we be changing it like every 5 to 6 years? Because I know our local Northern Kentucky University had this as a project for our class about 6 years ago. We paid $25,000 for the website. How long would you expect this website to be in existence before we have to incur an additional cost?
Well, we have a very talented design team to the point that you can probably have the design be good, have a good life expectancy for probably a good 5 years. However, because that's still a concern for a lot of individuals, what we provided in proposal is a free website design refresh after 4 years. So during the 5th year, we'll give you a brand new design and bring it up to the current internet specs free of charge. The hope is that during the 5th year, you do a great job, that you want to extend the hosting and annual fee with us for another 3 or 4 years. So it is taken care of there, but we are unique in the industry of being able to build websites that have a much longer longevity than other website design firms. In regards to the university, the only reason you wouldn't be able to utilize them today, although they do nice work or sometimes pro bono work, is because of the fact that unless they know how to do ADA programming for government websites, you could be caught liable for lawsuits by not being fully ADA.
And we're not
compliant. So it's important. City managers have told us it's really important that they have some of that understanding and does that on a daily basis so it can keep their ADA specifications compliant on the website. And during content editor training, we'll train the content editors on what they have to do to keep it ADA compliant as well.
Okay.
Excellent question.
Okay, but Chad just said something.
We're not ADA compliant.
We're not ADA compliant. I like the idea of having an
Plus,
ADA
our current website is not mobile friendly to the point to where if somebody pulls it up on their phone, it does not resize correctly. And with so much internet traffic coming out from mobile devices, it's more critical than now ever to have it mobile ready.
Chad's just talking about the viability of having a mobile web because so many people use their cell phones like I do to access.
Yes. Chad was in the demonstration. He had a lot of great insights, and he's definitely right on target with his comments.
Okay, that's all the questions I had.
Does anyone else have any questions for him? Okay, I do not believe there are any other questions. Did you have any questions, Mayor?
No, I don't think so. Thank you for being with us this evening.
Thank you for allowing me to present. And if anyone does have any questions, please get them to Mike or to April, and I'll make sure to answer them within 24 hours. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just have a question for Chad.
Yeah.
I assume that this is on our web server?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not
So
all
it's
this-
our,
It's separate from the city servers here at the office, so everything's completely separate. So if the city's,
so where is it?
it's out on the
residing?
internet right now, hosted with an internet service provider right now.
So there's a firewall
Yes.
and all kinds of
Yeah,
protection?
it's all isolated. So-
Okay,
So you know Florence is one of their customers.
right.
I thought so. Does anyone talk to them? So have you talked to Florence? See what they think?
I've talked to Florence and they are happy with the site. The various department heads can manage the individual department or aspects of the website and everything. They're pretty happy with it, so.
How large of a corporation is this? How large of a company?
I don't know how large they are.
But they're, we know anything about their customer service, the responsive from
In talking
Florence?
to Florence, they were extremely happy with it, so they didn't have much bad things to say about it. But I think they did.
Now, would we place more emphasis on our website more so than communicating with residents via Facebook?
No, we still need to continue to put stuff on Facebook, but from that point, it needs to be, I feel it needs to be going back to the website if they want more information.
So should our Facebook webpage be changed too? Because it's kind of,
It probably April manages that now, and a lot of that stuff can be updated in permanent.
I know it's hard to see on a mobile app. I don't know if there's anything that can be done.
But Pat, it's not, jog my memory, I think they said they have a way of linking those two together, so if we put
Yeah.
information out on one, it updates
It
the other.
does update the other.
Okay, this company can link,
Yes, they
That's
have
great.
everything.
They can link it, which was one of the attractiveness when Chad brought it
And
to
now that
us.
I'm thinking about that, if they put information out on the website, on the platform, it can automatically push it to Facebook as well.
okay? And when we had the, I was involved in one website redesign, we had a company, a local company, and, you know, we were talking about banners and things like that, and they go, well, what do you want? And it was like we were new. I think this company would probably come in with some good
They'll come up with
examples.
fresh ideas because they specialize
Okay.
in city websites. That's what they do. That's
And
their
and
specialty.
particularly government websites. Okay. Sounds like a great company.
All right, moving on, we have Resolution 2021-9.
Resolution number 2021, we start with 2021-9. A resolution of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky designating the additional uses of funds created to assist in the funding of the new Crescent Villa Fire Authority Firehouse and withdrawing Resolution 2021-8. Whereas the City of Crescent Springs and Villa Hill, the cities of Crescent Springs and Villa Hills, Kentucky had previously provided for a sum of $50,000 to be used for the design, legal expenses, and construction of a new firehouse for the Crescent Villa Fire Authority in conjunction with the City of Villa Hills, Kentucky. And whereas in the fiscal year 2020-2021, the City of Crescent Springs has paid its share, which totals the sum of $20,000. And whereas additional needs have arisen for the use of the remainder of the fund previously allocated. And whereas City Council had passed Resolution 2021-8, which contained errors in amounts to be expended by the City of Crescent Springs, now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor of the City Council of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, that in addition to the uses specified earlier by approval of the budget, the city authorizes the fire authority to use the remainder of the $50,000 fund already paid for the design, legal expenses, and construction costs of a new firehouse to now also be used for the debt service on the bond previously authorized by the cities to finance the building of the new firehouse for the Crescent Villa Fire Authority. Resolution 2021-8 is hereby withdrawn.
All right, do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second it.
Mike Doherty,
Yes.
Deborah No,
Yes.
Christie Arlinghouse,
Yes.
Patrick Hackett,
Yes.
Chad Longbonds,
Yes.
Carol McGowan.
Yes.
All right, resolution passes 6-0. Next item is new business. We have a guest, Rob Pines with PDS.
Thank you, Mayor. They do have, okay. Thank you, Mayor, members of council. It's a pleasure to be here. I know that a few months ago, some figures were sent out to you that I believe you've seen, along with some additional documents pertaining to the code enforcement program. I just wanted to be here tonight to provide a little bit of additional information as to the reasoning behind those changes. Mr. Daly's been attempting to get me here. 2 weeks ago, I had a conflict. I was present in another city meeting, but glad to be here this evening. So, as you're all aware, we provide numerous services to the respective jurisdictions within Kenton County. As a taxing entity, the funds that we collect via the annual tax is actually earmarked for certain services. Those funds are supposed to be used for planning, zoning, subdivision reviews, and infrastructure engineering and inspections. Programs like building plan review, inspections, and code enforcement were always to be fee-based services. So I know that's where it gets a little bit confusing. When the One-Stop Shop program was born, from what I understand, there were 7 jurisdictions that got together and approached, at the time, Northern Kentucky Area Planning Commission, and had a desire to consolidate those services. I believe when the discussion was had about initiating a code enforcement program, that the intent was to subsidize that program so that the actual financial impact of the respective jurisdictions was lessened for the first several years until the program got off the ground. Once it got to full operation, full capacity, then I believe the intent was for that to be 100% fee-based. Now we fast forward 14, 15 years later, and the program is still being subsidized with funds that we are collecting via the taxes that were never intended to subsidize those programs. As you can imagine, some of the jurisdictions that don't utilize those services were fundamentally opposed to using tax dollars from their residents to subsidize programs that they didn't use. Which brings us to the proposal for increasing the billing to 100% of actual cost for these services. The figures that you were provided a couple of months ago, when I first saw them, I had sticker shock. But I don't believe that those are truly indicative of what the potential financial impact is to each of the respective jurisdictions. In the past, obviously we would conduct inspections, issue notices, violations, citations, and that's the way it went. We would continue. We had several problem properties within this city where we were likely up to citation number 25, 30. Every time you go out and conduct an inspection, every time you have some clerical work in the office, there's a cost associated with that. And ultimately, the taxpayers of all of Kenton County were absorbing 60% of that cost. So that being said, I provided some additional figures to Mr. Daly today. I believe that you've all been provided with a copy of those figures. I guess the easiest way to put it is I want to assure you that the preliminary figures of the cost increase, they were estimates based on an average of the 5 previous years under the previous operating methods that they were using. The ability to control your costs is completely up to you. Mr. Daly and I have discussed several of the other jurisdictions that we provide code enforcement services to have set thresholds. We're going to continue to inspect, issue notices and citations up to a certain point. Citation number 10, a certain dollar amount, something that makes sense. Hey, maybe we want to pull back, we need to address this in a different manner. Maybe we need to foreclose on the liens that we placed against this property as opposed to spinning our wheels, because continuing to cite at that point in time is somewhat meaningless. So I know that we have an individual in-house that we work very well with who goes out, investigates, and will issue courtesy notices. We don't need to get involved unless something is escalated to the point where we need to run everything through the Code Enforcement Board process. I think at least on the surface, on the day-to-day operations, you have 100% control, but the figures that you have in front of you indicate liens that have been filed by the Joint Code Enforcement Board on your city's behalf over the last several years. With the amended interlocal agreement and level of service agreement with the Code Enforcement Program, previous arrangements with distribution of fines collected, as well as any monies that were collected from lien payment, have all been altered. With the Code Enforcement Program, under the new operating model, 100% of any fines that are collected and 100% of any lien that is placed is 100% recoverable by the city. If you look at the totals that you have on the sheets in front of you, you can see there's a significant amount of money floating out there. Now, that's not to say the city is entitled to 100% of that amount. That's the face value of the liens. We know that for many of the problem properties, the actual value of the property is never going to satisfy those liens. However, there is another option for you to recover some of your costs. Code enforcement is civil in nature. As code enforcement officers, our scope only goes so far. We investigate, we issue notices of violation, and we can cite a property owner. We continue to cite the property owner. But ultimately, if you have a property owner that refuses to obey issues, ultimately it's a partnership between PDS and the city, because in order to really accomplish real change with these problem properties, you have to initiate foreclosure. Short of, there are certain circumstances if condition poses imminent danger, or if left unabated could be irreparable. The city does have the ability to cause those issues to be abated and place a lien for those abatement costs against the property. But again, it's a lien. So, no, there was a lot of information. I talked about a lot of figures, increased billing percentage. I really do truly believe that with establishing some parameters, with setting thresholds for enforcement actions, we can actually keep cost at a manageable level that will not reach the estimates that were provided a couple of months ago. But furthermore, in the instance that we do have problematic properties, you do have the ability to recover at least a portion of that through fines and or liens.
In looking at these numbers, we have $95,700 of liens filed since 2011, and we've only collected $2,739 since 2011. Is it because we have not filed liens against the property?
The liens are there.
The liens are there,
Those-
the house is just getting sold.
Correct. The majority of the time, any of those payment amounts that you see for just about all of those jurisdictions came from a property transfer, or if somebody has an escrow account and the escrow company, on behalf, is the, having the financial interest or holding the note for that property, they satisfy those liens and, of course, mortgage payment goes up. I believe that the percentage of city-initiated foreclosures, and that's for all jurisdictions that we service, is probably less than 5%.
Less than 5%.
Absolutely sure of that. I'm absolutely sure of that.
Yeah.
Because it's just not worth our while.
Correct.
The amount of money that we're getting.
For any foreclosure, you're probably $3,000 out of pocket to even initiate that
Just to
LP.
start.
And then, once that starts through that process, if it does go to the master commissioner, it's going to go for auction. Any individual party, city, county, people that buy county tax bills, anybody that has a recorded interest or a possible interest is made aware of that, and they have the ability to reply to that list pendant. That doesn't mean that everyone is going to get paid. They're just basically saying, hey, we're entitled to this. But you take the risk, if it goes to master commissioner, of somebody coming in and offering a lowball bid. And it could be somebody that has every intent to get that property up to a point where they could either flip it, rent it, something like that. But then I've seen some other areas where you have people that purchase them, never make any changes, and they end up just adding to their slumlord portfolio, I guess is the
So if
best way
somebody
to-
came in and let's say there's $5,000 for the liens, and they bought the place for $1,000, we would just be out.
So, yes, that's correct. There were some code enforcement changes, 2016, 2017, that as long as we are providing data as statutorily required for a lien holder notification system, prior to that 2017 date, code enforcement liens were at the bottom of the pecking order pretty much. Everything else came first. But after those changes about 4 years ago, as long as everything is reported, then the code enforcement liens are superior to all other liens except local, county, school board taxes. So if done correctly, code enforcement liens will actually take precedence over mortgage.
But if somebody, if there's $15,000 worth of liens on property and sold at the master commissioners for $2,000, doesn't that wipe all those liens out when they get sold?
Master commissioner's deed is a function of law, clears everything. Well, and on the flip side, to have $195,000 worth of liens floating out there. Anything that was filed prior to 2017 had a 5-year shelf life. Following House Bill 422 changes in 2017, they upped that to 10. But if you have somebody that just purchased a property, you could have $50,000 in code enforcement liens. If they are aware that that's going to be their residence and they're not going anywhere, if nobody initiates a foreclosure, they sit on them and they disappear as well.
They go away.
Okay. I've got a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
Last year, we paid Correct, $1,264 for services with you, is that correct?
I believe so, yes, sir.
Our cost for this coming year will be $12,906.
That was what was based on the previous 5-year average. And that's why I touched on, we had previously been spinning our wheels. I don't believe that that figure is truly indicative.
Could we get a more accurate figure?
Well, that really depends on how we're directed to provide
This is
the
a-
work
yeah.
for you, because
Or
before,
could you compare to pre-COVID to 2019 so we have a better picture?
right, and we know that we have properties that have been problems forever. I can tell you the street names and you know the ones.
Yep.
Watkins and Eden.
Yep.
We had 30+ citations on both of those. If we establish, and I think it has to be collaborative, we establish a threshold. Yes, we want you to do what you've been doing. However, we're not going to allow you to keep spinning your wheels. We want you to go to this point and then stop. Once we're at this point, we as a council are going to decide whether or not we're going to initiate the foreclosure.
There are certain properties in this city since I've been on council, and some of the newer ones, that have not been foreclosed on. It's been 2.5 years.
Yes, sir.
There's been some longer than that.
I know. So that is the point. We're paying this fee, but how do we get a conclusion on our problems?
That's up to you.
How do we?
We file the liens on your behalf.
Okay, so we have to
But
go take.
we're acting on your behalf, but
Okay.
in order to foreclose on those,
Yeah.
that action has to come from you.
Okay,
We can't do that on your behalf.
okay.
But Patrick, probably not since the virus
Yeah.
started, but I'll say in 2019, sat down and had a hard look at the real problem properties. And from a foreclosure standpoint, whatever the city paid was what the city was going to pay, and it was not going to get anything back.
No, it's not.
And based on that decision, the decision was made not to foreclose, and I perfectly understood that.
Yeah.
You have to consider the outlay of your taxpayer dollars and whether you're getting any benefit from it. I do believe one of those two problem properties is actually sold in foreclosure.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I think where the concern comes is there is one property in town that's sliding down the hill, and it's a hazard.
Yes.
And at some point, it'll have to be addressed.
Yeah.
And I believe on that one, we had our level 2 building inspector go over there and issued a repair demo order. That was, I believe, right before COVID.
Okay.
So, it was stagnant for over a year. Could we pick it up and run with it from that point? Probably. I think that from a practical standpoint, it would probably be in our best interest as well as the city's best interest to reissue that repair demo order. And per the property maintenance code, it affords the owner of record X amount of time to either come up with an abatement plan that is acceptable to the city or demolish the property. If they do not do so,
Yeah.
we have the code enforcement board uphold that repair demo order, and again, it's a cost benefit analysis, but if they do not comply with that, then the city has the ability to demolish that property and place a lien.
I think as an individual homing in on that, they have 175 brand new condos, and as you go into the entrance of them, you see this thing sliding down the hill. So it is kind of a deterrent if you're trying to get top dollars of real estate.
It certainly is.
Maybe the builder would want to tear it down for us.
I might ask. They said no.
We tried.
And with that piece of property, not only has it become a safety hazard, it's a quality of life issue for that neighborhood.
Yes.
Yes.
Does it put the city in any legal ramification if we don't do it?
We are working on doing something because something has to be done. That's why Rob just mentioned about the demo order and that process. And I've been in discussion with Rob and Quentin regarding this particular site.
I think it'd be a hard burden. I mean, again, I don't even play an attorney on television, but up to this point, taking the COVID intermission out, I think that we've tried to go through the proper civil channels with the numerous citations and finally getting to the point that we issued the repair demo order. So, have we done everything that we can within the scope that we have to operate within? Currently, I think we have.
And we need to remember, we're not in this particular business to make money. Sometimes we're going to have to come forward with the money through our budgeting process to be able to pull off these certain demos within the community itself.
One of the other suggestions, and Mike and I have spoken about this on a couple of different occasions, code enforcement's never supposed to be a revenue generator. If anything, if you come close to breaking even, you're doing a good job. But in the event that we do have a property that had liens against it and it sells and we do recover some of those liens, I believe, I don't want to mention the city by name, but there is one city in Kenton County that takes those funds and puts them in a separate line item, and then those monies are used for abatement funds in the event that they have to do something. So it might get to the point where if you did have to demo a property, you may have a pool of money to draw from instead of going from the general fund. There was another city that was looking at using lien funds as a low interest loan for residents who may have financial hardships that want to abate issues. They want to work with you, but they just don't have the means to do so. So there's some options.
All right, thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay, next item is the first reading of ordinance 2021-3.
Ordinance number 2021-3, and an ordinance of the City of Crescent Springs in Kenton County, Kentucky, adopting an amended interlocal agreement between the Kenton County Fiscal Court and the cities of Bromley, Crescent Springs, Crestview Hills, Edgewood, Ellesmere, Fort Wright, Independence, Kenton Vale, Lakeside Park, Ludlow, Park Hills, Ryland Heights, Taylor Mill, and Villa Hills for the code enforcement in Kenton County, Kentucky. Whereas the cities of Crescent Springs, Crestview Hills, Fort Wright, Kenton Vale, Park Hills, Ryland Heights, Villa Hills, Independence, Lakeside Park, Edgewood, Ludlow, Ellesmere, Bromley, and Taylor Mill in the County of Kenton, Commonwealth of Kentucky, and cities, and the County of Kenton, Commonwealth of Kentucky, County, have adopted an existing interlocal agreement for the Kenton County Joint Code Enforcement Board and thereby participate in the Kenton County Joint Code Enforcement Board. And whereas the cities and county desire to amend the existing interlocal agreement for the Kenton County Joint Code Enforcement Board to continue the operation of said joint board, but with material changes to its financial administration and responsibilities, implementing a 100% funding formula for PDS services to be paid by each city for projects within that city's jurisdiction, providing a balance of the cost associated with the city's level of use of the code enforcement program. Now therefore be it ordained by the City of Crescent Springs in Kenton County, Kentucky as follows. Section 1, the City Council hereby approves the attached amended interlocal agreement for the Kenton County Joint Code Enforcement Board and authorizes Justin Hartfield, Mayor for the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, to sign the attached amended interlocal agreement for the Kenton County Joint Code Enforcement Board, any and all other documents associated therewith, such as to assure that the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky continue its participation in the Kenton County Joint Code Enforcement Board. Section 2. This ordinance shall take effect and be in full force when passed, published, and recorded according to law.
All right. Before we get to the first reading of our next ordinance, I believe we have a guest, Nick.
Hi, thank you. Nick Bonstrach, chairperson of the Finance Committee. So I just want to quickly summarize the budget for you before we have the reading. So our revenues are going to exceed expenses by $9K. However, there will be the budget expenses, the sources will exceed the expenses by $9K, but the expenses are going to exceed the revenues by $276. So there will be a shortfall. That will be funded with about 60% of that will be funded from the carryover from the fiscal year end, June 30, 21. The revenues are down year over year, about $274K due to CARES Act funding. And the total expenses are up about 166 from prior year with a lot of moving pieces, but firehouse debt is one of the big pieces, and then lawn service we'll talk about. Just some pie charts, you've probably seen these before, just break down kind of our costs. You'll see the light blue up in the upper left is the CARES Act money's in there, so it's kind of distorting things on a historical perspective, but roughly 55% of our revenues this fiscal year are coming from property tax and gross receipts. As we roll forward into 22, June 30, 22, you'll see this is more normalized with that real property tax and gross receipts going to almost 2/3 of the total revenue. And then on the expense side, you can see nearly half of our expenses are contract services, led of course by the safety services. And then public works there, you see at 30%, admin at 20, a little over 20. Next year, not a lot of change other than the public works is dropping due to the light projects dropping out from year over year, and then the lawn service piece moving from public works into contract services, and then the debt service increase for the fire lane. And then final result, and I apologize, this isn't updated, so the difference there should show 9,000 positive for 22. But that basically summarizes, you can see on the revenue side, the big changes on the CARES Act, and then on the expense side, the pieces I kind of walked through there. Anybody have any questions?
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it.
All right, so we now have the first reading of ordinance 2021-4.
Ordinance number 2021-4, an ordinance of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, adopting the annual budget for the fiscal year July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2022 by estimating revenues and resources and appropriating funds for the operation of city government. Whereas an annual budget proposal and message has been prepared and delivered to City Council, and whereas the City Council has reviewed said budget proposal and made the necessary modifications, now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky. Section 1, that the annual budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2022 is hereby adopted as attached hereto as Exhibit A and incorporated herein by reference as it fully set forth. Section 2, this ordinance shall become effective July 1st, 2021. Section 3, the invalidity of any section of this ordinance shall not affect the validity of any other section.
All right, next item is the first reading of ordinance 2021-5.
Ordinance number 2021-5, an ordinance of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, amending ordinance number 2020-8, approving the annual budget of July 1, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. Whereas the city wishes, in accordance with the laws of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, to amend its budget for the current fiscal year to reflect actual revenue and actual expenditures. And whereas the city has previously enacted Ordinance 2020-8, adopting an annual budget for the fiscal year July 1, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, Section 1, that the annual budget for the fiscal year July 1, 2020 and ending June 30th, 2021, which was originally adopted as Ordinance 2020-8, is hereby amended as shown on the attached Exhibit A, which is incorporated herein by reference as if fully set forth. Section 2, the invalidity of any section of this ordinance shall not affect the validity of any other section.
All right, thank you. Next item is first reading of ordinance 2021-6.
Ordinance number 2021-6, an ordinance of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, repealing ordinance number 2020-10 regarding the position of Assistant City Administrator / Zoning Administrator and the adoption of an amended position description. Whereas City Council of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky and the Mayor adopted ordinance number 2020-10, which amended ordinance number 2019-7 regarding the position of Zoning Administrator / Project Coordinator by retitling the position to be the Assistant City Administrator / Zoning Administrator and adopting an amended position description. And whereas the City Council and the Mayor have determined that the position of Assistant City Administrator / Zoning Administrator is no longer necessary, beginning with the fiscal year beginning on July 1, 2021. Now therefore be it ordained by the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, that ordinance number 2020-10 is hereby repealed. The position of Assistant City Administrator / Zoning Administrator is hereby abolished. Any ordinances or parts of ordinances that are in conflict herewith are to the extent of such conflict repealed. This ordinance shall become effective on July 1st, 2021.
Okay, thank you. And then we have the first reading of ordinance 2021-7.
An ordinance of the City of Crescent Springs, ordinance number 2021-7. An ordinance of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, changing the name of a city road from Rips Road to Veterans Way. Whereas the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky maintains several roads throughout the city limits, and whereas the City Council of the City of Crescent Springs wishes to change the name of the road that heretofore has been named Rips Road to Veterans Way. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, that the name of the road shall be changed from Rips Road to Veterans Way.
Mr. Baker, can we have a discussion about this now?
You're not voting on it tonight, but sure.
Okay. Since we had several people in the audience talk about it, I thought I'd bring it up. I'd like to echo what the two gentlemen said, Mr. Flaherty and Mr. Albanese, about lip service to our community. I think this is part of being, you hear a lot about it in the media about cancel culture. Somebody does something wrong one time and they're canceled out. Can't go into particulars about what happened, and it's really nobody's business, and it's up to the mayor to hire and fire. However, after 20 or 45 years of service, 45 years of service, hard work in this city, he had to make some major contributions. Started out as a police officer, worked his way up to police chief, retired from that position, became public works director, saw the development of the Buttermilk Town Center, many other projects. I think that this motion, this council is better than this. We should not be into cancel culture. I feel that this motion is untimely, inappropriate, and I wasn't going to use this word, but I'm going to use it, vindictive, and it's sad. It's sad that we cancel somebody out after 45 years of service to this community. I think it's a very bad move on this council's part. Some people on this council may not like him, but you have to recognize the fact that he did a lot of good for this community. Mr. Daly at meetings in the last 3 years have spoken about what a great mentor Mr. Rickberg was to him in teaching him about the city. I think we should take a step back and think about this. I have nothing against the veterans. I fully support the veterans. We have a beautiful Veterans Memorial and other memorials because of your grandfather. God bless him. He conceived, developed, raised money, had us sit out with boots in the hot sun to collect the money. And he's recognized with, naming the park after him, and I'm okay with that, but we're talking about a little stretch of pavement for a man that worked here for 45 years, and I think it's wrong. That's all I've got to say.
If you're going to take that sign down, then you should not rename anything in that park under anybody's name. Zero.
Okay, moving on to
Because
the
I
committee.
have a question. A lot of things have been done in the state through the counties, like the Erpenbeck schools. They don't name after people anymore because things have happened.
Councilman Doherty.
So is there, the road that goes into the park now, is that named at all?
I don't believe so.
So I would like to offer an amendment to this ordinance, and that I'm fine with changing that stretch of road by the memorial to Veterans Way, but I would like to see the entrance to the park named Ritz Way.
And may I mention one other thing that I found out today from previous Mayor Claire Marconi. There was some discussion at the time, and she could not recall that parcel of land may be in Villa Hills. I mean,
Yeah, I think
something
you're right.
we need to
Yeah, I remember that now.
I mean, it may be out of our purview. Or I don't know if Villa Hills ever did anything, or if Claire had worked out an agreement with Villa Hills that we named that parcel of land, and it was okay with Villa Hills. I don't know. I'm just saying, it might be worth looking into and tabling for now, but I am in agreement with, you.
Mike.
Mike, there's too many Mikes.
Mike, you say Mike, you got it.
Yeah.
So I think that could be a compromise, or leave Ritz Road where it is and name the entrance to the park Veterans Way.
Yeah.
I think there's a way to satisfy both issues here, as opposed to just changing one. Just food for thought as we move forward. We're not voting tonight.
It's first reading.
Right. So food for thought.
All right, well, thank you. Moving on to committee reports.
Can we, new business, can I bring up something under new business?
Sure.
Okay. I was a little surprised tonight when Mr. Flaherty was only allowed to ask 2 questions. In my experience with city government, if you don't allow the people to speak, you start having trouble. We almost all councils do. This is your second term, Chad and Pat. You're in your first couple months, Carol. Mike, you've been on before, and Deborah, I'm sorry, I was looking at you, but I didn't say you've been on for several months. In the past, when we didn't let residents speak, and believe me, I know we have full agenda tonight, and I know that there will be some people who will get up here and rattle and rattle and rattle, but I think instead of just springing on somebody like that, we need to have maybe, or you need to think about saying that you're limited to 5 minutes, or you're limited to, you know, I don't know if you want so many questions or an amount of time, so that, and you tell them that beforehand so they can prepare themselves to ask the questions so they can get the answers. If they don't get the answers to the questions, they leave this meeting and they're disgruntled. Or they'll come up to one council meeting afterward, the council person afterwards, and they'll only get one viewpoint. And that's not a good thing. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you. Okay, committee reports. Anything for finance?
I think we've had quite a bit
I
tonight.
think we're good with that. All right, anything for public works, council?
I'll keep it for the caucus meeting.
Okay. Anything on economic development?
Just took it over with Chad, and we'll probably have something starting in July.
Okay. Events and recreation.
We had jamming in the neighborhood Saturday. Police were there to help us. It was well received. We'll be doing it again. I have something in the works for June. And of course, we need the Villa Hills to work on Music Fest in September.
What do you got in course for June?
Just surprise.
Surprise.
How many people were
Pardon?
how many people were functioning, you say, in the various stops?
And each stop?
Yeah, total wise, how many people?
There were probably 150 to 200 at each stop.
Right.
So, AAA won the prize for the most people.
How was that advertised?
It was, how was that, April? Was it just Facebook? I think, I put up signs in those neighborhoods. We chose 3 neighborhoods.
So what if you don't live in that neighborhood?
Well,
There was a
the reason
postcard
it
sent
wasn't-
out. I received a postcard in the mail
the,
about.
right, if you
about
lived
the-
on, if you
about-
lived on a
About the
road.
name, no, I live on Parsons Drive, and this is the jamming on Westerly.
Yes.
And it talked about the band and what time they were gonna be there. There was a specific card that was in the mail.
That's correct. The girls, April and
That's how it was
Lori,
advertised.
April and Lori sent out cards to the neighbors on those streets so they would know that, you know, all this noise was
I lived in
coming.
the city since 1960. I didn't get one, but I don't live in those neighborhoods.
Rose, I think
It's
the
only-
reason why was because of COVID. You weren't trying to get a whole lot of people in one place at one time.
It's only the second time we've done it.
Yeah.
Lou and I came up with it last fall because of COVID, because nobody could go out in great numbers. And we just arbitrarily picked 3 locations we thought would bring a lot of people. And it was so well reserved. Lou had already picked the May date, and then I went ahead and he had picked streets. So I just followed out of memory to him what he had chosen. And it's been received so well that I imagine we will do it again. We may not have to do it in neighborhoods, you know, now that COVID's gone. Maybe we can just do some jamming in the park.
But that would be more open to everyone in the city.
Yeah. It wasn't to, you know, negate anybody where they were. It was just, it was an idea last fall that just came off the top of our heads, and we did it just so people could get out and breathe and, you know, have a little enjoyment. Yeah, so it'll happen again, but everything else that we're planning, I think will be at the park pretty much.
All right, communications and transparency.
No report, Mayor.
Okay.
Mike, I do have one thing under communications. I receive these letters, I'm gonna say bi-monthly, maybe quarterly, from some company wanting to insure my water lines and sewers, and they say that it's in conjunction with the city. Do we have a contract with some company that's using our database?
I believe several years back, there was a resolution and a contract. that was put in place?
Is there a time frame on this?
No.
Because this, I mean, it's got our city seal on the letter, on the,
We just allowed them to use the city seal, that the city was, aware of it, and that we weren't saying that they use those people, but we wanted, we allowed them to come in and do that to see it.
well, the letter says the city of Crescent Springs has partnered with SLWA. So that makes it sound like we've done something.
Yeah.
And if I get a lot of complaints from neighbors about one thing, it's these silly things.
I think
April,
we,
can you clarify for us, please?
A couple of years ago, it was probably about a year and a half, 2 years ago, they approached us wanting to use our logo. We gave them exclusive rights to use our logo for their letter. That agreement is good for 3 years. And at that time, you'll all have to consider whether or not you want to terminate it or not, because if we don't do it at the right time, it rolls and the agreement keeps going. So we'll have to remember the 3-year date, and then I believe you'll just have to discuss whether or not you want to continue that agreement with them.
Can you let us know at the next meeting what that date is?
I said I will.
Great, thanks.
I just wonder how many residents have availed themselves of the service. I wonder if they would be willing to tell us that, or able to tell us that.
I don't know.
Because they send letters. If you don't subscribe to their service, you have a letter in your mailbox. I get them every couple of weeks. Sometimes I get them more than once a month.
I can't remember how many times they send them out. It's a couple times a year, but they'll send the first one, and then a couple weeks later, they'll send the next one as a reminder for the first one. And it may be a spring and a fall campaign, 2 times a year, so you get 4 letters a year. It's something on that timing.
And if you, according to one of my neighbors, if you call to say, don't send me this, you get put on perpetual hold. And so there seems to be some inconsistency with this, and
And you can leave a message and tell them to take you off their mailing list, and they never take you off the mailing list.
so we need to do something about that.
I'll get the dates
Well,
for you.
we'll have a date, we can do it in 3 years.
That probably violates some other law that I can't recite off the top of my head.
You can't.
I just came back from vacation. I'm glad I remembered to come here tonight.
All right, Safety and Police Committee. Councilmember No?
Nothing more than what the chief said, yeah.
Okay.
You had a discussion at the last council meeting. I brought up use of force, and Mike sent out the email. Yeah.
Use of force has been changed several times since I've been here at the police department. Every time we get recertified, we review our use of force. In fact, we're changing the use of force again at the next council meeting.
The reason why I'm mentioning this is I know that, and I know what Mike had in his email, but our residents need to know that. So, if perhaps at the next council meeting, if you could just, I've got people that are sending me emails and everything else. There's a lot of public interest in use of force. I think it might behoove us just to do a little education of our residents about use of force.
Right, because we're KLEC certified, state accredited, we have to constantly change our use of force. In fact, last year they did the pursuit change, we did that. Use of force change, we redid it again. Use of force after a year, we added some things that government says we need to add into it. We're constantly monitoring. If we don't, we won't be accredited.
And Chief, I'm not casting any aspersions away. I'm just trying to help educate the residents that have got some issues.
But I know since I've been here, I've changed the policy completely when I became chief. And this will be my 3rd or 4th use of force change based on what the government says we need to add in the use of force or changes in use of force. Same as with pursuits and canine usage and stuff like that. There's certain things that they say you have to add into that or have in your use of force to be recommended. So I will, next time I'll bring it up.
I would appreciate it. And by the way, everyone, Chief Allen will be on WKRC tomorrow evening, is it?
Yes, it is.
What time, Chief?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, everybody be watching.
I think Christie's your agent right now.
Well, I think so. I mean, I got the Springs of the Hill, and here he is. And I mean, everywhere I look, it's Chief Allen. It's like I want his autograph.
All right, anything for Crescent Villa Fire Authority?
I think the chief did a fine job kind of going over everything. We'll go to the firehouse next meeting. I know that we are kind of a month ahead of schedule according to the architectural company, to what they would anticipate. But I think the sooner that we can lock in design and get out pricing, the better we are, because construction's going to the roof.
All right, thank you, Councilman Doherty. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a
I have
motion.
a question first, Mayor. Who's in charge of keeping an eye on the grass cutting?
That would be our Public Works Department.
Is there somebody can take them around and show them where they're supposed to be cutting? Nobody's done anything down on Crowley Street, Park and Ride, Laurie Street, Crescent Avenue. It's looking pretty good.
Tony, we just made the transition, so it's only been a week, and Tanya is working with lawn care. And there are several sites that she has to go and kind of teach them and show them.
Right,
And
yeah.
it's gonna take more than a week, 2 weeks, it's gonna take a while.
Okay, well, that's fine.
They'll get there.
I mean, I talked to Merkel today too, but just to make sure that everybody's on the same page and somebody shows them what to do.
Yes, Tanya is definitely, Mike and I met with her earlier today, actually, and had a discussion around Merkel specifically, and even towards some of those areas in that part of the city earlier today. So it is a priority, and she certainly will be on that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They've got some fast-moving mowers because they were cutting the hill in the park, and they were zipping around and getting the cut in a lot quicker time than what our mowers do.
And we've been in contact with, Mike has been in contact with them a lot, so has I, to get this ramped up since Thursday.
All right, so I believe we had a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Someone second? Perfect. Thank you, everyone.